Well, taking all those results from the tournament and players into account, it's easy to see why the African Cup of Nations is so gripping. It's the fact that anyone can beat anyone. James, you got to go behind the scenes of the Gambia camp when you were there. Tell me what it was like to see an underdog perform to great heights in the tournament.
I mean, it was fascinating. I think the most important aspect that you'd really see in that team when you're with them and you speak to them is the team spirit within them. This is something that it wasn't just the manager, it was the players who were really insistent on this. This is what actually made their strength, and this is what allowed them to perform on the day. And that is what happens. That really is what happens. And they were really strong, and and they had this good. We talk about, do players need to be best friends? Do they need to get on well? Well, in the end, if you really want to deliver, if you want to know that you are on the same level with everyone else on the pitch, then you do need that, and that is what carried them. And the Gambia, it's fantastic. Their first ever time here, reached the quarterfinals. You'd never have expected that to happen, really. I mean, once they won their first games, going through past the group stages, it's fantastic.
And of course, they did that. I mean, on the back of a very solid defense, which was, fantastic to see from a smaller team, wasn't it?
And with players playing in fourth, fifth divisions all over. So really, it does show not just that newcomers or smaller teams can be a threat, but that can also put an end to other teams' chances or bids to lift the trophy. So even if these teams don't get to the final, if they don't win it, they are teams that other teams need to be careful about and not take it lightly, as we've seen. And I think that's something that's, their manager Tom Saintfiet has really, he's been with them for about 3-4 years now. And has managed to build this. He didn't do it with the other teams. He'd spent less time before that, but clearly it's something that's working for them, and they will have had that heroic welcome when they went back, because it's just put Gambia on the map for them, and hopefully they'll be back in the next tournaments. And who knows, they're focusing on bigger scale tournaments for the World Cup. But it's a great start, and I'm sure we definitely know more about them now, and we'll surely see more about them later.
And of course, Ruben, there were the likes of Malawi and Equatorial Guinea and Comoros, Cape Verde, these smaller nations closing the gap very much on the larger ones who didn't really perform like we expected them to.
Yeah, without forgetting Burkina Faso, although they are a little bit more heavyweight already in African football, seeing all those performances they've had during the last tournaments. But still, yeah, that's what we have seen. It's a little bit because of there are two reasons. It's because they overperformed, but you can also say that the big nations underperformed a little bit. Algeria comes to mind, Ghana, for example, who both crashed out in the first round, and in a tournament with 24 teams, where 16 teams are going through crashing out in the first round. That's quite impressive and also, quite a shame, to be honest. And but it's good to focus on those small teams, because that's also what's making this tournament so exciting. If you look at the Euros, when there's a newcomer coming in general, it's they will lose a lot of games. And we have once had an exception with Iceland recently, but in these tournaments, it's not the first time. Looking back at Madagascar in 2019, for example, there's every time there is that fairy tale story in the tournament, and that's also why we like this tournament so much.
We haven't mentioned Equatorial Guinea as well, who ousted Mali. Another example. Anything can happen.
Yeah, holding strong. Well, we just hope, I guess, that there will be a consistency now that these teams are coming up. These coaches will remain, and they will basically maintain that level.
It's interesting as well, because when I hear Tom Saintfiet talking about the World Cup and stuff, I'm also keeping Madagascar in mind. They're not here right now. They were really interesting during that other Africa Cup of Nations. So do it in small steps, like Burkina Faso has done. They are now at that point that they can really aim for the World Cup. Gambia, they are still the smallest team of the African continent. They have performed fantastically. They have really interesting players. So the potential is there, that's for sure. But at the same time, if you're looking always like, this is just the final point on the horizon.
Absolutely.